this is an uttapam that I remember from Bombay. People
are so fascinated by this kingdom, king, queen.
Shri is watching the crowds and wondering if the king is going to make a appearance to meet Shri. Oh, there they are. The guards marching from the barracks to Buckingham Palace. So the world has changed around it, as fast-paced as ever, but Big Ben works in the manner that it was intended to, even today, 165 years from the time that it was built. Well, one of the things that you must do when you're in London is take a black cab. Quintessential London thing. I just love the shape of these cars. After that walk to Buckingham Palace, the plan is to do some tea, some afternoon tea, which is a quintessential English thing. Two very contrasting plates. Some akuri, nicely spiced, sausage, some bun. And this is an uttapam that I remember from Bombay. So back then, when you used to order for a masala uttapam, you'd get the uttapam with some onions, chilies, etc. and then smeared with some of the palya, the potato stuffing. When I saw the uttapam on the menu, for some reason my thought went back to the uttapam that I would enjoy in Mumbai. So I made a request. So when I asked them for the potato tempering to be smeared on the uttapam, they were a bit surprised. But I think that's a good thing about a restaurant that obliges its patrons. You get to visit memories. Well, like they say, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. The sambar and the chutney. Very creamy with the lentils. I can taste a bit of the hingu, the asafoetida. But what I really want to taste is this masala uttapam as I remember it back from Bombay. I love the slight sweetness that comes from the roasted onions. And there's also a bit of tartness in the hittu, in the dosa batter, that works very well with the creamy, comforting flavors of the potato. There's also plenty of coriander that also lifts up the flavors a bit. When you are trying Indian food, especially breakfast items in an environment that has people from so many nationalities, I think what you will find is basically a sense of the flavors. You will find a sense of what the dish is all about. So for example, in the sambar, it's got the hingu that I'm tasting, it's got the lentils, but it's perhaps a little more puree-like in its texture. But I guess that's what's more accepting to people here. But the dosa, I must say, the uttapam does register a distant, faint memory of my uttapam days in Mumbai. Well, that was a lovely breakfast and we've emerged for a walk. But for the last couple of days it's been drizzling, so that's the one thing out here. I think it rains every once in a while, and so therefore you have to plan your day accordingly. So yesterday we thought we'd go to Borough Market and explore that, and there's a lot of food there. But we couldn't because of the weather. And we thought today may be better, but it's drizzling as you can see. So we'll have to kind of figure what we're going to do today. Just waiting for Sunaina, our daughter, to arrive. And then we will plan. People
are so fascinated by this kingdom, king, queen.
Shri is watching the crowds and wondering if the king is going to make a appearance to meet Shri. Everybody is here waiting for the changing of the guards ceremony. So that's Victoria Monument where we went, and Buckingham Palace. The mounted policeman trying to control the crowd. Oh, there they are. The guards marching from the barracks to Buckingham Palace. Well, the guards have arrived at the palace, but all that I can see is their heads bobbing above the crowd. This is probably the most visited site of London, Buckingham Palace and Victoria Monument. If you really want to catch the changing of the guards in detail, well, look up a YouTube video, because when you get here, this is all that you will find. A sea of humanity. But I was glad that we caught the guards coming out of the barracks. So that happens just a little before the changing of the guards in the procession, along with the mounted policemen and the horses. So that's quite a sight. But otherwise, this is pretty much what you see. And I think that's the case with most popular sites wherever you go in the world. There will always be the crowds that you will have to contend with. So it'll never really measure up to what you see on television, because it'll never be as good as that when you're there. And I've lost Shri again somewhere in the crowd. But I'll head back to the hotel. I'm sure she'll find her way there. I lost her yesterday and today too. So I think if we go tomorrow, I'm sure we'll make it a hat trick. We're finally reunited with the boss.
I would have come to the hotel, right, Kripal?
Yes, that's where we met, and now we are on our way. We are on Victoria Street with our friendly guide who doesn't want to be on camera, and we're on our way to, what is that, Sunena?
Westminster.
We're on our way to Westminster Abbey, and you can also see the London Eye. So Westminster, you can see Big Ben. You enjoying London?
It's nice vacation, it's the art and architecture, the clean roads, people, and so many things.
Right from the time that we got on the car from the airport coming into town, the houses, the brick architecture, the Victorian houses, and all of that. There's so much of greenery that you see all around, and that's something that so I think it's just the vibe of the city. It's also a city which is very pedestrian friendly. So everywhere you have footpaths and clean that you can walk on. If you have the energy and the stamina, you can literally cover all of London. Or I don't know, all of London may be an exaggeration, but most of it by walk. Isn't that Westminster Abbey? So that's the famous Westminster Abbey, which has been the site of many coronations. We're not going to be stepping in. We're just going to be taking in the sights. When you do the sights here in London, you have to really allow yourself time, especially if you're here only for a short while. And if you want to cover, let's say, a fair bit of it, you will spend time in the lines getting in. But if you just want to appreciate the architecture, you can get all of that from the outside. And that, of course, is Big Ben. I just heard the clock chime at 12. Amazing to learn that the Big Ben came up 164 years ago. Clock Tower, which is also the bell tower of the Westminster, was completed. And since then it has stood still, stood resolute and strong. So the world has changed around it as fast-paced as ever, but Big Ben works in the manner that it was intended to, even today, 165 years from the time that it was built. Fascinating. This entire complex is called Parliament Square. So it's the legislature, that is the Houses of Parliament, judiciary, and also the church to the south. That's Westminster Abbey that we just saw. right across Big Ben is the London Eye, also called the Millennium Wheel. So you can sit in one of those capsules there and spend 30 minutes with a bird's eye view of London if you'd like to. Tickets I think are about 20 or 30 pounds normal, but I think if you want to book last minute it's about 50 pounds or so. So I think that's the southwest bank of the River Thames. The wheel moves so slowly that if you watch it just like that, you can't really get a sense of it moving. So I put my camera on the time lapse, and that's how I caught the movement of the London Eye. So I'm told it takes about 30-35 minutes for it to complete one round. So if you have time and a lot of patience to just sit in that capsule with I think 15-20 other fellow travelers, I think that'll be a good spot to get a vantage view of London. You can also take boat rides down the Thames out here.
Beautiful parks. Such beautiful floral arrangement madibangide. So beautiful.
Take a picture here. There was road work happening on the other side on the footpath. So we just took a diversion into this beautiful garden. Wonderful. See that tree? It's drooping down, but they've supported it. So they want to preserve that. I think that tree can carry the weight of its branches, so they've decided to support it with stilts. That's the famous Trafalgar Square. You said it was in a movie?
Yeah. It's something called Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Queen Amrish Puri feeds the birds over here in this Trafalgar Square. So even Shah Rukh Khan comes with him. That was like the very important scene of the movie. After that, this scene, this particular Trafalgar Square has become, I think, more famous. Everybody, whoever comes to London, they want to come and
from India.
Yeah.
So if you want a Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge moment, there's a statue there of one Major General Sir Henry Havelock. I just read about Trafalgar Square. Like many other things that you will find connected with British history, it basically is a monument to their victory. In this case, a naval victory at the port of Trafalgar over, I think, France and Spain.
Yeah, 17 Maddox Street.
Well, one of the things that you must do when you're in London is take a black cab. A quintessential London thing. I just love the shape of these cars. Very comfortable.
Spacious.
And you'll find them everywhere. Well, after Trafalgar Square, now it's time to head to lunch. We're going to a very special restaurant for lunch. It's called the Kanishka Mayfair. If you have a place to get to in London, the London cabs know where to go. And they can go everywhere. So it's one of the most convenient ways of getting around London. Of course, you have to pay a few pounds for that convenience. But they can go where no other cab can go. And there's a certain atmosphere even when you sit in the cab. You're sitting in this cabin to yourself. You've got a back bench and you've got 3 seats up front. So bottom line, if you're in London, do take a black cab at least once. But of course, as you get stuck in the traffic, the fare keeps mounting. So that's something that you have to be careful of. So in some parts of central London, if it's peak hours and if it's a short ride, perhaps sometimes you're better off walking. Get some exercise, get the steps, and also a lot lighter on your pocket.
So beetroot croquette on the basis chili tamarind chutney, a hand bites to start.
Oh, lovely. That is a very famous chef Atul Kochar's chicken tikka pie. And now that lunch is done, the ladies want to shop.